Hey guys, welcome back to another Wild Women Wednesday. I am super excited to introduce you to our guest this evening. We've got Kat Stanzik with us, who has been featured on ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, Huffington Post, Medium. The list is endless. And she's the founder of Action Incubator and a lead strategist who specializes in turning your current contacts into clients. How to really create a process so that you've got a pipeline that's constantly full of qualified leads who want to invest quickly in what it is that you offer and what you can help them with. She does this with a proprietary lead boss system that works on any platform. So it's not limited to just one social media site or email or even online. Works online, works offline. I've known Kat for years, and the one thing I can tell you is I know her process works. It's worked for me, and I've watched it work for her clients. So you are going to enjoy tonight's presentation. She's going to dive into how you can attract a flood of ideal clients by using podcasts, whether you host your own or whether you're a guest on podcasts, exactly how to do that. So I'm going to turn it over to Kat, and Kat, take it away.
So I know that all of you are familiar with podcasting. So no, I will not go into a whole diatribe of what it is and what it includes. I'm going to make some basic assumptions. But some of the things I want you to know is that right now, 6.5 million adults, which is important because I'm not too concerned about the kids because they're not buying from me, in the UK listen to podcasts weekly, and about 90 million people in the US listen to it monthly. So it's pretty much safe to say that podcasting as a strategy isn't going anywhere. So now let's talk about how to leverage this strategy in your business so that it's working for you. So one of the things I want to make sure of is that you don't have to set up a fancy studio. I've seen people waste a bunch of time and money updating everything, even like renting studios and stuff like that. You don't have to do it. You don't also have to do a podcast blitz where you're doing 52 podcast recordings in a week. And you don't have to have millions of downloads to make hundreds of thousands of dollars from this one strategy. I know, I've done it. So meaning I don't do those things, and I've made hundreds of thousands of dollars using podcasting as part of one of my business strategies in my business. The other thing I want to make sure you know of is that you don't have to be a total bro, if you get what I'm saying, to actually make this work either. And what I mean here is that, those high pressure 64 step, reveal your soul on the podcast, bait and switch, so they can make you feel guilty and worthless so that they make sure you buy from them. That we're not about that life, right? That's not what you have to do, and you don't have to follow the process. The problem is that what is out there right now tends to fall in that vein, and people don't know where it's coming from, and they're doing it. And I'm here to say that there's other ways you can do this without having to do strategies and techniques and sales methodologies that don't feel good. Because if you're not in alignment with it, neither are your ideal clients, and that sale isn't going to close, and you're basically going to lose potential prospects that are leads. So just to clarify, I go prospect, lead, client. Sometimes people switch leads and prospecting. So that's just how I tend to define it. So what I want to show you today is how you as a host can attract more traffic, how you as a guest can engage the audience so that people want to know more about you, which gets to the downloads and interaction and things like that. And then the most important piece, which people tend to want to look at, which is how to convert more of those opportunities into your high ticket programs. So we've done a little bit of intro of who I am at the beginning. If you're watching the recording, you probably already heard it. But part of what I do is help people, when specifically time crunched expert service providers, to leverage firework experiences to attract their ideal clients in one place. And I don't mean one or two, I mean dozens, and multiple dozens, and create a conversation that converts. So just in the chat real quick, how many of you kind of stand behind the fact that high ticket sales are done through conversation, meaning you're picking up the phone, you're probably talking to someone. It's not I'm going to create the funnel and watch my go from homeless to multimillionaire in 2 weeks, right? That's not what we're doing. Again, bro strategy. You'll catch a theme as to what I'm about. So if I looked into my crystal ball, which is, I see it over there, and I checked it this morning, what I see as part of the upcoming processes and systems and things like that that are going to be working as it relates to podcasting is that it's all going to be focused on the experience. That podcast will make it, and that the podcast that will make it will create an impact and generate leads for you are the ones that are going to be focused strategically on driving value and that memorable experience. So we've all heard those podcasts. We might have even interviewed guests where you basically probably didn't even want to promote it or share it because it was terrible. It was so dry. It was so boring. There was no value. Those podcasts, they're not going to make it. And I'm not shocked as to why they're not generating leads. So one of the things that you want to make sure you remember is that this is how you go and create a firework experience. So podcasting is a firework experience based off of how you lead someone through the process. So this is how you go from a little humdrum sparkler. Yeah, there's lots of people with podcasts and they're like little sparklers and you can have fun with it and you can maybe see it sometimes in the dark. But what you really want to create is a firework, right? This is how you can actually take people, strangers, bring them into your ecosystem and create a desire to continue to consume content from you. That's what we want. Not everyone is ready to buy, but we need to identify them and they want to be ready. And how we help them do that is nurture them and support them in our ecosystem. So this is how you not only generate leads, but it's also how you shorten the sales cycle, which I'm pretty sure a lot of people would appreciate. Even the corporate space, I don't really care what industry you're in. These are things that help shorten the sales cycle. And here's the secret. It's because you're positioned as the authority. It is your house. You are the person that's creating the community and people are seeing you in that space and they get to know you with a quick infusion and that helps them get closer to a buying decision. Left to your own devices out into the world, after having met someone once, pretty sure not most people would have bought from that person if they've never re-engaged with them. So podcasting is just one of the firework experiences you're likely leveraging in your business. And by the time you end today, what you'll see is that you're going to be leveraging some of these strategies already, but there's these little tweaks, these little things to be thinking about that's actually going to help increase not only the number of people who are interested in hearing more from you, but the number of people who want to actually jump on a sales call with you. So we're going to go into the first section. There's 3 sections, again, all about the host, the guest, and then on the conversion. So when it comes to the hosting and you having a podcast, we're going to look at what's your goal. Like, what do you want? It doesn't matter whether you're just starting in podcasting or you've been in it for 20 years. What I've seen is in both instances, people are not actually touching on the pulse of what you're trying to do. Are you, there's basically 3 things you're trying to get done. You're either wanting more downloads, you want to increase your authority, or you want to do some lead generation. So think of those 3 things as like primary colors, right? We've got, I almost lost track of the primary, like blue, red, and green, right? Yes, I think those are it. So those are primary colors. Yes, they can intermix, but you want to have one as your focus. None of them are wrong. And what we're going to be focusing on today is the lead generation aspect of this. So this is the overall process of going from getting booked, creating your podcast to the end where it's published and syndicated and all those other things. What I want to focus on today is this area. These 3 steps right here as part of the overall process is where the money and the leads happen. And it's the place where I'm seeing a lot of people not put enough attention and not put enough effort in order to create more ease down the line. So I'm all about, and you can write that down, putting effort into creating the ease. It's that strategic little bit more that's really going to help with converting those conversations down the line. So basically from here, if you don't do the one right, we know as part of a process flow, you can't move to the next step. So if you have a really bad recording, the likelihood of someone actually listening to the CTA isn't going to be there. They're not going to want to follow up. So we see how they kind of feed into each other. So the first step, and these are each steps, I'm going to look at the engagement. So this is the recording piece that we just saw, or the interview, if you will. And this is where the engagement actually happens. There's a little bit of it before, but when that record button hits, this is where the magic starts to sparkle to turn into the firework experience. Oh, okay. I have my own jokes. So as it relates to lead generation, you're either wooing the guest or you're wooing the audience. So we want to be very clear with what your intentions are there. Now, a great guest will promote. And so what we want to do is create an experience that gets them excited to do that. Now, I've never seen someone buy from someone else out of complete lack of interest in what that person does. So creating an engaging experience, that word again, you're gonna hear it a lot, will help you move potential leads down the pipeline. So the three things to keep in mind here is the format, the time frame, and the frequency. So thinking about your ideal clients, what do they have time for? What will keep you top of mind without being annoying? Those are the key drivers, their experience. I've seen a lot of people use strategies that are not in alignment. So if you're working with corporations and Fortune 100, 500, whatever number CEOs, they're not going to sign up, and we're not going to use podcasting here, for a 5-day challenge, right? We've seen that happen before. They don't have time for that. That's not what they want. Will they listen to an hour-and-a-half podcast all about somebody's hero journey? Or are they going to listen to the 10 to 20-minute podcast about a strategic initiative working right now in corporate America? Right? So you want to make sure that your podcast and naming it, all those things are in alignment. So what I see working right now, and these are just my recommendations, and just like everybody else, there's always opinions, and different people have different opinions, but mine tends to be pretty good. So when it comes to podcasts that are focused on business messaging, right? That's my area of expertise, that also do an effective job of lead generation. It comes down to 20 to 30-minute recordings. Short intros. Are you ready for it? Hi, welcome to the Revenue Accelerator. My name is Kat Stancic. Today I have my guest, Brianna Tracy. That's my intro. Every single time. I don't want to wait 30 seconds listening to la music to finally get to the point, to get started, to then get to a nugget. You're putting distance between people, and that's causing friction. Anytime there's friction, there's drop off, and you're leaving leads behind. So short intros, and the most important thing is your episode notes. I'm going to get into this in just a little bit, but these are vital to creating leads as part of your process, especially as a host. So I'm going to say this again. This is about driving real value. This is not vanity things. Storytelling podcasts that go on for an hour for, the hero's journey are not in alignment when you're doing business development, for example. People don't have time for it. They don't want to hear it. It's superficial. Yes, you can share really deep things, but it's probably not necessarily in alignment with the niche. And so that's why this is really important, of driving that value, making sure that you're going deeper with the expert and highlighting them as being on stage. So this isn't about you being able to bait and switch people and start selling them on the podcast. I've seen those. They're terrible to listen to. And I've almost gotten caught in a couple one, but glad to say I've never actually fallen prey to one of those. So whether you're doing solo shows or having those guest experts, the focus is in capturing those gold nuggets. That's your responsibility as a host, is to be an amazing interviewer, is to help them shine even brighter than what they are right now. Because when they have that after recording glow, they're wanting to give back. It's just human nature in terms of reciprocity. So that's why we want to create that positive experience. So the next piece is all about your call to action, right? The CTA. So this is really effective when it comes to lead generation as a host. And most people are like, what? Like usually the CTA is only reserved for the guest. How does the host ever have a CTA? So as a host, you actually get to put your call to actions in strategically. And this is where they go. They go into your show notes. That's why it's important. No show notes, no CTA. So yes, there are a plethora of different ways to infuse CTAs. You can do commercials, you can have sponsorships. I like to keep things simple because then they are actionable. So we're just going to focus on this one as having the notes containing the CTA. It's the first thing. Right off the bat, you don't go into the details. CTA, if you want to know more, if you'd like access to whatever that juicy, amazing, descriptive, freebie that you have that gets them into your ecosystem, put it there. What you want to make sure you do also as part of your show notes is include timestamps and the key questions. How many of you are, just by show of hands, you like to read something real quick to see if it's worth your time? Like your scanners, you can do it real quick. Right. So a majority of us can do a quick scan, know if it's something that's going to be worth our time. If you're not doing that, then you're asking someone to spend 20, 30 minutes, let's assume you're doing that time frame, having no idea what they're into, having no understanding of maybe even who you are or what it is that they're going to hear. That's a lot to ask from a complete stranger. So people are intrinsically lazy and greedy. It's just a fact. And so let's leverage that. Let them be lazy, put the show notes there and let them scan it to get them interested to then go listen to that soundbite. And probably because you're already an amazing interviewer, they're going to go and listen to the whole thing now because you've got them interested. Now they're interested. Do you see how they start going into the ecosystem? They're going to look for more things. The other thing you can do is all about the SEO and backlinks. I know about them. This is not my playground, but these are actually really important, especially when it comes to naming it. I remember talking to a client once and they were like, the holistic health journey to be able to create wealth and health and wellness something podcast. And I was like, no, wealth and health or wealth and wellness. That's it. It's got to be very clear and concise and get people's interest. And they almost have to know what they're going to get in a very short sentence. It's why positioning, branding, I'm sure we've got a bunch of experts here. They're shaking their head. Yep, it's important to have that, those naming conventions. So the third piece here is in the follow-up. Now, I can already hear the eye rolls happening out there in the universe. Yes, it's the follow-up. This is where the magic actually really happens. I keep saying that, but every piece is important. It's like, which is your favorite child? All of them. So in the process, this happens in the process and the systems. I mean, there's one that you like more, right? But like, you're not going to admit it, but there's one you like more. It's just, they're easier to love is the thing. Not that you don't love them all, just there's one that's easier to love. Yes. So I'll stand by that. So in the process, everything happens in the process and systems you have to support everything, all the efforts and the initiative that you're putting into this to be able to keep in touch. Please don't use other people as one night stands. I've had people come onto my podcast and never reach out again. How do you think that makes a host feel? And have you done that to someone else? You've basically leveraged their platform and said, thanks, it was a nice time. I'll call you. That's not what we're doing because we know that a lead can lead to opportunity. It's not just what the lead is in terms of cash money. It's about all the opportunity that it presents you in terms of other podcasts, other speaking gigs, other connections, power partners, all those amazing things that absolutely lead to more revenue. So what you want to do as part of this is give first. Yes, you've just invested time with this person. You showcase them on the stage. So you want to make sure that as part of your process, you're booking an hour. And yes, the show is only 20 to 30 minutes long, but what you're doing is you're building connection right off the bat. And then at the end, you're networking. And this is where you give again. So you ask them, what are you doing? What are you focused on? How can I support you? This is not I'm trying to find the angle to pitch you. They may present that to you, but it is a true unattached give. There is someone you can put them in touch with. There is a resource you can provide them. There is absolutely something you can do, even if it's just a strategic nugget value bomb of your own that helps shift something in them. So then human reciprocity, I feel like it's a law of good people, is that they will want to reciprocate. So as a host, and let's say they fit the criteria of a really good ideal client, who do they know? Who would make a great guest on your show? People are more apt to say yes when there's an introduction, and you may have a list. Maybe you want Oprah on your podcast and that person 1 or 2 degrees separated, but if you don't ask, you don't get. And part of that is making sure that you have a process and a system to enable people to fulfill on those asks. So that goes to that last piece, which is what is the system that you have in place to keep in touch? The most important thing to remember is that all these leads lead to something, right? I'll show you my infinite lead flow in just a bit so that you can see how that basically showcases itself. So this is the hosting stuff in terms of identifying where there may be opportunity for you to continue to nurture the relationship to the next level. So yes, when there's content, you're going to syndicate it. You're going to give snippets. You're going to give them swipe copy to share. You're going to make it super easy for them to share because we're all doing that, right? We're giving them all the copy they need to share. We're giving them the snippets of the videos. We're giving them the graphics. There's a lot of times that people aren't doing this and they're just like, here's the link, share it, thanks, see you later, right? That's not the relationship we want to feel. What if someone did that to us? I'd be like, well, I'll get to it. And then I don't get to it. We have to make it as easy as possible for someone. And this stands in that this is about the experience that they're having with you, because how you show up here is likely how you're also showing up and being able to support your clients. So if this wasn't a good experience, can only imagine what it might be like to work with you. And that, I don't think, is a fair reflection if that's not actually the case. And if you're in this community, it's pretty much guaranteed that that's not the case, that you are an amazing person. And these are just little tweaks that could be course corrected. So when it comes to guesting and driving leads in that way, it's what do they need to see and hear from you in order to take that next step? So shocker, we're going to start again with what is the outcome that you want? Basically, it comes down to three things again, which is, are you looking to convert the host? Are you looking to have more of the audience members possibly convert? Or are you just building authority? And this is the borrowed authority, implied authority, all the different authority levels as being part of on someone's show. Now there's shows that you pay to play. I'm not a big fan of that. But that's what you're doing, is you're paying to borrow authority. I've been featured on this podcast, right? It's the, what is that? Like bragging rights kind of thing. So in the comments real quick, let me see, what's your focus? Are you typically focused on converting the host? Are you typically focused on having more audience member convert into your funnel? I said the word. Or are you mostly looking to do authority building? So I'm going to pop up in the chat here. Yep, two. So there's a lot of audience. Yep, we want to get more people. Yep. And there's always there's a mix, right? Because sometimes you might go into it with one concept and you're like, oh my God, the host would make, like, they did all this thing wrong and I'm this person and I could totally fix that kind of stuff. So again, it's like color palettes. We kind of have an initial focus and then we might start blending a little bit to create more color. So here's going to be the high level, again, process when it comes to guest processing. Now it's going to follow a similar process. I know, super shocked. We're again going to focus on the three key areas. Super shocked. They happen to be how you show up for the interview, what your CTA is, and what your mechanism is for following up. Do we get that there's a certain process here that we're following? All right. So step one is knowing your beats. How many of us, just by quick raise of hands, you've had someone, maybe you've interviewed them or you've listened to a podcast recording and you were like, oh my God, you couldn't like wait. It's like a bad movie. It's not even like a train wreck movie where you're like committed and you have to finish watching it. It's like, I am done with this. I can't listen. And actually probably maybe ended up having a poor reflection on the host because they brought that guest on, right? So we want to make sure we're not doing that to other people. And I know a lot of us here have these beats down, but sometimes we don't always mention them. Maybe they could be refined. There's always an opportunity. There's always that moment where we're saying something. It's like a divine download. Write them out and stack them up. That's how you create one of those like keynotes, those workshops where people are constantly writing everything down, because you've got beat after beat after beat, and it comes out as a really good, we'll do a symphony, even though symphonies don't have a bunch of drums. So, all my jokes, I'm just entertaining myself today. So you want to know what I have the wrong note here. So that's what we're going to focus on when it comes to your beats. So these relate to what's unique about you. You have your own naming convention. I use firework experiences. No one else says that. No one else talks about it in that way. You can't compare me to anybody else because I have my own way of doing things and talking about it. What's interesting about you? Is there a different way that you approach things? Do you stand for or against something? And then, of course, leveraging your expertise. So where people get stuck is in how to go from, so here's a couple of mine, right? So how do you go from talking about the weather to whether you should work together? That's the turn of the conversation, the whether to whether, that people typically need support with. I usually get a lot of cute, right? So it's not just the lead, but what it leads to. You've heard me say that one. We tend to sell the way we buy. What if instead we sold the way the other person liked to buy? Just by adding this strategy, you can increase your sales without adding any more effort or anything else to your plate. Leveraging firework experience to attract your ideal clients in one place and create conversations that convert to sales. So you'll see it in my branding. You see it in my naming. You'll see me talk about it. I even say it multiple times over and over again, because people need to hear the same beat over and over and over again. Even if you go on and do a podcast blitz and have 30 podcasts where you present the same 3 topics, different people will hear it at different places. How often have we watched a movie and we caught something different that second, third, or even fourth time? We missed that, but it added a whole new depth to what that movie actually ended up meaning, or all that, good stuff. So here's step number 2. It's the CTA. So this is really like where I've seen a lot of I've actually started basically when I have a guest come on, I basically say, what's your freebie? I was like, you please do not say the best way to get in touch with me is to find me on LinkedIn. That is not your CTA. I will not publish the podcast if that's what you say. And I'm so direct with that because so many people, and you'd be shocked to know the people that are actually extremely established. People are lazy, people are greedy. They're not going to go and try to remember your name and wherever they're listening to it, which is most often in the car, go and remember to go on LinkedIn. Remember how your name is typed because some of us have funky names, right? We're not all like Jane Doe, essentially. And even that can be spelled differently. Don't think yourself so special that people are going to remember your name and to then go do it. You want to make it very actionable. And so one of the things that you want to make sure you're doing is one, that it's memorable, that there's a value-rich description as part of it, and create a vanity URL. So one of my freebies is fullybooked.ceo. How likely are you to remember that when you get home from being in the car versus www.actionincubator.com/123freebie, right? Or remember to find Kat Stancic, go to my website, go find that, oh, that's the word. Just go to my website, put more effort in, go to the top right, click on the free gift, put in your information, and then you'll get the thing. Make it really I have opinions. Make it as easy as possible for people to action. Just, they are lazy, they are greedy, and they are always right. It's the same rules to affiliate marketing. That's a big secret, by the way, if you want to make affiliate marketing work, those three things. So play into that and understand human nature. So your interview should tee up your freebie. I see a lot of people talk about this and then talk about this is their freebie, and they are not connected. So there is no desire to go and get that thing. Your interview should set up the freebie as the next logical step of, I can't move forward until I go get my hands on that thing. And then that freebie should actually set up the next logical step as you continue to walk them through the customer journey. So you have these different places that people might enter your customer journey, and there is a call to action that's in alignment to where they are and what they should move to next. This is, again, that little bit of strategic effort that creates the ease that keeps them into your ecosystem, because it's not just getting them in there. It's about nurturing them through, because only 3% of people are ready to buy right now. And if you're only focused on those 3%, you're leaving 97% of opportunity. And I don't mean those 97% of people are actually going to buy, but 7% more need a little bit more information. That freebie could be the thing that tips them off the fence and into action. And then 60% of people need a little bit more nurturing. So they need to be maintained. They need to experience you. And yes, the bottom 30 are never going to buy, but that doesn't mean they're worthless and that you can actually get rid of them. There's opportunity there, because how many of you have referred someone that you've never worked with? Not because it just wasn't a fit at the time, but you like them. It's not someone that you might work with, but you know you can speak to their quality of work and you were willing to refer them. That's what I mean. Those are the relationships that you're building as part of this overall process, especially when you're looking at that guest to host. You spent some good time together. It's a lot to ask an hour of someone's time, especially if you're not being compensated for it. So what I want you to do is just check yourself real quick. When you think of your freebie, right, your complimentary offer, if you will, what catches your attention? What would you actually opt in for? What's something that you actually have time for, thinking in terms of your ideal client? Too many times we have these, like, I see these like 20-page reports. Oh, everybody remember the ebook phase? Everybody had an ebook. It was all like, pages and pages long. I don't have time for that. Literally, I don't have time for that. Give me what I need as fast as I can get it to, and then let me decide to continue to consume information. But that first level needs to be a solid nugget, again, that drives them to the next step. So if these are a bunch of different options, but some of these work and some of these don't. I know swipe files, that works like gangbusters when you're doing biz dev. People want easy, no think, right? They're lazy and greedy. They want free stuff and they want it to be good. Shocker. All right. So the next thing is all in the follow-up. So I know, again, audible eye rolls. This is something that I want you to look at, and we're going to just do like a super quick audit. So if you're thinking about your freebie and you might be changing it from what we looked at before, or changing the naming convention, look at, is it client attractive? Or is this weird, super fluffy, ethereal name that really doesn't tell someone what they're going to get as part of this? Is there a benefit-rich description, or do you have a box with a name and email? That's a lot to ask for someone to just trust you right off the bat without context. Or does it really drive, okay, wow, I'm going to get this, I'm going to get this, I'm going to get this. Yes, I want it. Is the opt-in page optimized for conversion? Are you split testing things? Are you looking at how well it's doing? Is your thank you page there with next actionable steps? Once someone is in action, it's easy to keep them in action. So are you providing them the opportunity to continue to be click happy, right? Is your system tagging people? Are you segmenting people coming in? Do you have, maybe you go and do a really big speech presentation. That opt-in page that you have should be duplicated so that you know that people that came into your funnel from that event, you can quickly identify them. So these are the things that you need to be thinking about on the back end of your system so that you can start crafting and having better conversations. Someone who saw you speak at an event is going to be and opting into that thing. And let's say you weren't allowed to sell anything, right? They're going to be more interested in hearing from you faster. And so versus someone who maybe heard you from a podcast from 6 years ago, right? So we want to know where people are coming from so that we can have these better conversations with them, because the most important thing about conversation is having context. Where people get triggered by the sleaze and the sales is when they don't have a context, when they're looking at someone's LinkedIn profile and being like, how do I get them to the sales call? How do I get them to the sales call? That's focusing on you. All you need to do is find the context on their LinkedIn page or whatever it is that you're doing as a visibility strategy to start and continue the conversation. The other thing you want to make sure you have is the confirmation emails, including resources and next steps. I don't know how many times I've opted into something just to see, and then I never got the thing. Check your emails, never got it. Didn't pop up as a resource to download, nothing. Lost any opportunity, right? We want to make sure that we're enabling the opportunity to happen. I don't know if it's a guaranteed lead, but I don't want to leave opportunities behind either. And we want to make sure we have that follow-up sequence, right? Is it still in alignment with who you are now and who you're becoming? Or have you created it 10 years ago, you said it and forget it? These things need to be checked in with. See if it's still a reflection of your current marketing message. Are you currently still on brand with that? And these are not, I create it once and it's done. Usually there's an iteration, because I'm pretty sure all of us are not working with the same ideal client that we were working with 10 years ago. So if you're using the same stuff from 10 years ago, it's not shocking if you're still attracting those kinds of clients. So we want to make sure that everything we're putting out there, our beats, our positioning, our branding, our content, our freebies, our experiences are all in alignment with who we're wanting to work with and where we're going towards in our business, not where we came from. And don't forget about the host. Again, no one night stands. So what you want to make sure is that you're not waiting for them to reach out. They're busy just like you are. It's pretty egotistical to think that you're just going to wait for them to come to you, right? You don't pitch your offer at the end. Oh my God. Like I'm talking from experience. I've seen this. I've experienced this. It's not a good look. Don't assume you can't do anything from them. I don't care if they're like miles high up the ladder from you. There is absolutely something you can do and someone you can connect them to. You just got to get creative. So you want to make sure is that you're setting up a keep in touch process, meaning do not leave it up to trusting your brain that you will remember to follow up with Kim 2 months from now to talk and remind her about the conversation you had 2 previous months ago. Yeah, it's the whole check with me next quarter thing. They're saying that, but they're not going to remember the context of what it was and why they said that. So having that process to make sure that you're not leaving these good leads behind. Look to see if the host opted in. That is a really good green flag to say, continue to proceed with conversation, right? If they're interested in your thing and they opted in, right, there's opportunity there. And then make sure you do the ask process, which is you give to get. You give more so that you can get. And that's how you build that karmic abundance, if you will, as part of showing up as a great guest to be able to not only potentially convert the host, but convert the audience. So this is the leads to leads process. So essentially we have a lead here that leads to whether or not they're a potential client, and then if there's opportunity and what those opportunities are related to, and then subsequent steps of what all those opportunities could be. And then it feeds back. One lead can lead to your infinite supply of all of your ideal clients, because it's about asking for the connection. When you show up as a guest, hey, host, what other podcast do you think I should be on? Are there some introductions? Or, hey, I saw that you had, I saw that you had Oprah on your show, and I'm just Oprah fan. I saw that you had Oprah on your show. Like, would you be willing to make that introduction? You don't get if you don't ask. And if they had a great experience with you, they may very well be open to that. This is actually how I just landed one of my biggest speaking opportunities just recently. I randomly met someone at a conference. I followed up with them. They have a great podcast. I mean, like thousands of downloads every time there's an episode. And there's some of the biggest marketing names like Todd Herman and Jeff Walker have been on their show. So I got the balls to basically ask them first, would you be willing to be on my podcast? Can I have you as guests? I showed up and asked the best questions, positioned them with authority, set up the questions so they could knock it down. At the end of the recording, they invited me to their show. I knew that was going to happen. I had the confidence to know that I'm a good enough interviewer that they would desire to have me on there because I was complementing their strategies as part of the overall experience. I also send them thank you gifts that were personalized because this was worth the investment, not just a card. I actually ended up sending them like little succulent things that you could paint because they both had kids. So I was like, well, if you're not going to use it, then your kids will. But it was, I sent, they were little dinosaurs and I was like, I had a dinorific time, like corny, but so in alignment with my personality, and it stuck with them. And what I saw was that a couple episodes later, guess what succulent dinosaur plant was sitting in the back of their screen, of their background. Now it's not there anymore because they've moved offices, but just goes to show you, it's not my branded picture all over something, but it's something they can use. And when they see it, they reconnect to the energy and the experience that they had with me. So this is the leads to leads thing. I will say that if there's any of these process flows that you want to get access to, feel free to, reach out to me and I'm happy to share a copy with you. So we looked at the hosting, we looked at the guesting. And so I'm going to go real quick into converting more of those clients or prospects leads into your high ticket program. So this is about what I mentioned before, which is the ecosystem. What I want to show you today, well, that's not with the right note. See, this is what happens when you reuse slides. So we're going to talk about your ecosystem. So if they aren't ready to buy now, which I said, previously was those 3%, then what are you going to do with them? What do you do with the 97% of people? Because we've seen those people just hunting, right? This isn't about hunting your next client and murdering them and serving them up for yourself. This is, and we don't write killer content. We don't have tripwires. We don't do these things, right? They're hyper aggressive bro marketing nomenclature that have no place, I'm going to say in the DAMEs, just because I think we're better than that. So what I want you to think about is that ecosystem and looking at how are you nurturing people throughout all of their experiences, because not everyone is ready to buy. So you should also account for people who need that little bit of nurturing. And what are you building to help them with that? How are you helping them get to that sales decision faster? So my process is connect, converse, and close. You're connecting with people, right? You have a conversation, it's a little more intimate, it's not as many, and then you get to the close. So what we want to do is instead, this is great and it's wonderful, but how many of us really enjoy going door to door knocking, starting one conversation after the other, managing all the conversations at the same time? It can be really overwhelming. And we all had to get through that to get to where we are now. So what we want to do, especially when we're thinking about the quality and caliber, and I don't mean who they are as a human being soul, I mean is who they are in alignment with who your ideal client is. We want to look at firework experiences. These are the things that help start the sales conversation so that you don't have the sleaze, so that you don't have to figure out what the angle is, so you don't feel like you're pushing yourself onto someone, and actually encourages a lot of people to book sales calls with you. I mean, how many of us would like more people to just opt to book a sales call with us without having to ask them, without having to feel like I got to go through all this rigmarole? God, I feel like I dated myself. It's like my mom coming through me right there. So we want to make sure we're creating these firework experiences. So these are focused on gathering all of your ideal clients, right, in one place so you can show up as the authority that you are and create the community where you are the hub and continue those conversations into a sales call. So that's what Firework Experience does. It fast tracks it. It gets you to that closed conversation faster because of the experience that you're providing them. So that's what I want you to think about too, is what are some other strategies that you're leveraging in your business where there might be an opportunity to actually help narrow that sales cycle. And I can't get rid of it, right? But narrow that sales cycle down and be able to help people see the value of what you do and what you could do for them. Because this is not what we want to do. This is the impact. Yes, revenue is great, but it's about helping more people. And if we can help more people faster, that's how we increase our ability to create that impact, to put that love out into the world. Because as many as heart-centered women are here, it's kind of what it's about. Impact is driven by love. And that's how we change the world. That's how we make it a better place. It's how we do things like what Megan wants to do with empowering more women to not 2% of people hit the 7-figure mark. What about 10%? What about having equality and balanced representation across the board? That's how we do this. So if you want to get booked on more podcasts, to continue to leverage your visibility, to continue to get your message out there, I do have a podcast mixer. It's for 6 and 7-figure business owners who are leveraging visibility to scale. They're either looking for guests or they want to be guest experts or both. And you can sign up. It's complimentary for now. I don't know when you're seeing this recording, if you're seeing it, but right now, so you can find it at leadbossmixer.com. and register there. It is every second Friday of the month at 12 p.m. Eastern. And what I want to make sure we all know, and I always rally around this is absolutely about filling our pipeline with leads faster, the ones that really do want to work with us, so that we have less stress and more income, because that drives the impact, and really have a business that supports our lifestyle, because the hustling and the grinding and the glorification of that time is over. This is about creating the impact, but also loving ourselves and creating that life that we know we were meant to live, because we wouldn't be here right now if we didn't have that knowing.